Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Today, I'm going to be painting a winter train, and I'm sipping on some wild berry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you'll find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, cobalt blue, Mars black, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, chrome yellow, and fire red. And of course you can switch those up if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 4 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. Let me get them in order here. There we go. I have a 1 inch and a 1/4 inch wide flat bristle brushes. And then I have a number 5 and a number 1 round synthetic brushes. And I will just call them out as I use them. And of course you can switch those up as well if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase in my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to be using my number 5 round to premix a custom color. The colors I'm going to be using in this step are white, black, and blue, and I'm going to premix myself. I'm going to just call it a light blue color for the base coat of the canvas. It's really like a cool gray color, cold gray, but I'm going to just call it light blue for lack of a more difficult name. So I already have premixed my color on my palette here so you can see where I'm headed. This is the shade of light blue that I'm going for. How I achieved this is mostly white, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of black. So I'm in essence, black and white makes gray, and I'm adding that to my blue. So I'm desaturating my cobalt blue in order to make this nice, light, soft, very cold gray, or a desaturated blue. A very, I would call it neutral, but neutral means that you're turning it more brown. But so this is just a desaturated kind of blue that will look really nice and help me to build all of my snowy effects on my painting. So that's where I'm headed. Once you've achieved the color that you're looking for, you can put your mixing tool away, take out the large brush, the large bristle brush, and just paint the entire canvas with this color. You don't need to use any fancy brush stroke because you're going to get good coverage with this color itself, so the brush stroke won't be too evident regardless of if you're using circles or X's or whatever you're using. As long as you're putting a good amount of paint on it, you can really, for this type of color, use any brush stroke, simply because it's going to give you good coverage, which means you're not going to see through that paint and you won't really see the canvas underneath. When you're using a more transparent color, you may see the canvas underneath, and if you did want to have a flat coat for a base color, you might need to do or want to do more than one layer, but and use a consistent brush stroke. But on this particular painting, because we're using a color that has a lot of gray in it, or black and white, that provides a really great coverage. So you typically won't need to do a second coat. Even if you have a little bit of streaking in it, that's quite all right. Just allow for that to happen. And then once I've got it on here, what I do is I'm just going to take my brush with a light pressure and go back and forth left to right. This is going to level out any really thick spots, and or it will catch any spots that I may have missed. And then we are going to be using, we're actually going to be using our, we're going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the sky. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint. I do recommend before you start this step that the canvas is dry, because it'll be easier to do it that way. The colors I'm going to be using are white, yellow, red, and probably some of my light blue, and I might go into cobalt blue and black as well, because I wanted to go really light where my light source is going to be, which is somewhere around here, and then really dark as it goes up in the top left and right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, so I'll call out the colors as I use them, because I might not go to the black, but I'll let you know if I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my sky sitting behind these beautiful mountains, but I want there to be kind of like a place that kind of dips down in the mountain where my light source is going to be. So I'm going to have my light source, or my sun, somewhere around here, and then it's going to get darker and darker as it goes out. I don't need to do a big area for my sky. So what I'm going to be conscious about is that I'm never going to have a lot of paint on my brush. I'm going to start where I want it the lightest, and then I'm going to move out to my darkest. So for me, I'm going to put a tiny bit of white paint on my brush, just a little bit. I'm going to find myself the center of the top of my canvas. Then I'm going to come down, I would say almost about a quarter of the way down my canvas. So if this is about halfway down, maybe somewhere in through here, about a quarter of the way down my canvas, and then over about a quarter of the way. So about halfway between here and here, so somewhere in through here. This is about where my light source is going to go, and it's going to be the lightest of the light. And so I'm going to just take my brush and use this circular brush stroke. I'm not pushing very hard on my canvas, so the white will cover very well if you don't push too hard. And then as I work my way away from this spot, I'm thinking to myself, well, my sky is going to go behind my mountains, so I am going to just kind of bring it up in this direction and up in this direction, and then my mountains will sit in front of that. So once I've got this little area on in through here, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more white plus a tiny bit of yellow. And when I say tiny bit, I just have an itty bitty dot on the edge of my brush. So little I can even wipe it off on my paper towel. I have a little hair on my thing. And then I'm going to start adding that yellow into the exterior part of that light source. I'm now going to pick up a little bit of white, red, and yellow. So I have 3 colors on my brush, and I'm going to get this to go a little bit, I think I need a little more yellow on that, a little bit darker as I go farther away. So you can really have fun with these colors. You don't have to make it the same exact color pattern as I'm making mine. I just wanted mine to be pretty dramatic as it's going into this wintry kind of look. I'm going to bring my sky all the way up to this top left-hand corner, but I am going to get it to go a lot darker in a minute. I just wanted to give you a marker as to where I'm going. And then over on the right-hand side, I'm going to bring it somewhere in this vicinity. And again, I'm not using a lot of paint, so it dries really quick when I don't use a lot like this, and then I can just kind of keep building those colors. I am going to put a little bit more white back on my brush, and because I didn't use a lot of paint on my brush, I don't have a lot of paint in those bristles. So if I needed to wash it, I certainly could, but I just wanted to get that little light spot to be a little bit lighter, so I added a touch more white to my brush. And we'll just put that on there, let it dry, and you can keep building up that light spot as much as you want. And then as I get towards these edges, I'm now picking up a little bit more red and yellow, just to go a little bit darker as I come out in through here. And then I'm going to start picking up my red with a little bit of, I want it to go kind of dark and almost purpley. So I'm going to pick up, first I'm going to get that yellow off of my brush because I want to pick up maybe a little bit of my cobalt blue with my red because that'll turn it like a nice purpley color. But if I have yellow on my brush, I might get too much of a green type of a look, and I'm not interested in that. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of red and a touch of purple. I mean, a touch of blue. So this is going to make a nice kind of deep, dark kind of purpley type of a tone. And that's what I'm going to go for up in these exterior kind of areas. And again, I'm just using a circular brush stroke with very little bit of paint on my brush. You could certainly pre-mix this purpley tone. I just want to make sure I have all the water out of my brush so it doesn't go too thin on me. There we go. You could certainly pre-mix it. I'm just kind of mixing it on my canvas. But of course you can do whatever you want. And then I would just kind of keep fiddling with it. You don't need to do much up in through here simply because a lot of this is going to be hidden by the smokestack. But if you wanted to fiddle with it, like I feel like I want to pick up, no, I'm digging that. I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to add any more in through here, but I think I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white on my brush just to kind of get this to almost fade out like it was little clouds in front or near that light source, just to kind of get those two to soften up together. I'm thinking I'm digging that, maybe a little bit more white, red, and yellow, just to get this a little bit more dramatic in through here. And again, very little bit of paint on my brush, just kind of allowing for these colors to merge together and look like they're nice and cloudy. And then once you've got that in the area that you want, you can, of course, keep fiddling with it as much as you want to. And then we're going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it. I might come back and do just a little bit, another little layer in my light area in through there, but I'm going to let it dry first. And then you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be doing the base coat for the distant mountains. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but again, I'm going to use my number 5 round to pre-mix 2 more custom colors. So I'm going to be having my mountains just behind, my train is going to be coming out from like a tunnel in the mountain, and then I'm going to have mountains behind the train, and I want them to look like they're really, you know, in the distance going off into the horizon. So I'm going to have them smaller and more warm colors from that sun kind of shining on them. And then as they get towards the train, I'm going to get them to have cooler tones in them because they're going to be more shadowed by each other, and they'll have cooler tones as they come towards the viewer, which is kind of opposite of what it normally is, but because of the setting and because it's winter and shadows and all that good stuff, that's what'll happen. So what I've got is we're going to be using cobalt blue, black, red, white, and some of my light blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix myself a dark blue and a plum color. So I have pre-mixed them on my palette so you can see where I'm headed. So this first one that I've got here is what I'm going to call dark blue, and how I achieve that is the same color combination that I did for the light blue, only this time I used more blue and more black and less white. So I would be careful with the black because it can easily take over and really make this black. So you just want to add the black a little bit at a time and add the white a little bit at a time. So you don't need much white and black to achieve this dark blue tone. And then you just start spinning it together. And if you needed to go a little bit darker, feel like that could be just a teeny bit darker, you can just adjust it accordingly. And then once you've achieved that tone, or that color, can wash and dry your mixing tool, or do whatever you need to do to your mixing tool. And then this is going to be what I'm going to call my plum color. It's not exactly plum, but it's close enough for me to call it that. So how I achieve that is a little bit of blue, a good amount of red, and a teeny touch of white. And then I just mix it together. So red and blue is going to make a purpley type of a tone, and then the white in there is just going to help a little bit with the opacity. And you can certainly adjust this whatever way you want. I think I need a touch more blue in there. And then once I've achieved, and it's a very soft kind of dark lavender type of color. Actually, I think I'm going to put, it's a little bit too, do I want it this much? I'm going to actually add a touch of black to it to tone it down just a little bit, to desaturate it just a little bit, black and white. It's really just a muted, again, it's another kind of version of gray, only it's got a little bit of a purpley hue to it, and this is going to work great for the shadowy or the darker tones within the distant hill. So this looks pretty good to me. So and this is pretty similar to what was created in the sky when we were on top of that light blue. So this is where I'm headed with that. So I can put my mixing tool away. What I'm going to do now is just give myself kind of a gentle outline of where I want my mountains to go. I'm going to first start with my plum color, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the tip of my brush. I'm going to have mine kind of in front of my light source. I'm going to start up on this right hand side, and I'm just going to kind of give myself this little kind of pointy but then kind of rolling kind of a hill like this. I don't want it to be super straight lines, so I'm just going to kind of wiggle my brush a little bit in order to give myself a little bit of a mountainous profile. You could certainly use a different brush to accomplish this, and then once you've got it on there, then what I can do is I can just kind of rub it out a little bit coming down my canvas, creating some light spots and dark spots in almost diagonal type of a pattern. I don't need to cover up all of that original blue. This background blue, that I'm going to be using as part of the color base for these hills. I'm just really kind of trying to create some light spots and some dark spots that are going to give me the a formation of these mountains that I can build some little peaks onto, and maybe some little areas of snow patches and stuff like that. So again, I'm just kind of building these the illusion of peaks and valleys throughout my back hill. I'm going to have my additional hill coming in through here, but I'm going to be using my that dark blue color to do a similar process to what I'm doing on this one. And you can see how I'm leaving some of my my background blue visible in through there. So that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do, I'm not even going to wash my brush because I want this to look like it's coming towards the viewer and there would be a transition in colors as opposed to just one color there and another color here. So I'm not going to wash my brush, but I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of my dark blue. So I have the plum color and my dark blue on my brush at the same time. And now I can do an outline for another hill kind of coming, or mountain range coming in front of that one. So I can take this and just kind of bring it down in through here. This whole midsection is going to be kind of covered by the smoke from the train, and then in through here I do want to get these to kind of look like they are transitioning. So I'm using some of this dark brown or dark blue on top of some of that plum color in through here, just so we can get them to transition as if one is kind of fading into the next, or building itself into the next one. And then over in through here I'm going to pick up more of that dark blue, and I'm going to do a similar process to what I did over there, which is just kind of finding a couple spots that I want to say, okay, well, he will make a peak in the valley, and this one I don't necessarily have to go totally straight down. I will probably down in through here, but I can use, this one's going to be a little bit closer to us, so I can use more in some areas, more of a kind of a scrubbing type of a technique. But again, we're just kind of roughing in these hills or mountains at this point. We will be making them look more realistic as we go through the process, but this is just kind of giving us a good idea as to where we want some of these different textures and tones to go throughout the hills. I am going to have kind of a platform of sorts on my mountain in through here, where I'm going to have some pine trees kind of poking up. So I'm going to use some of this dark blue kind of aggressively in through here. So when I do my light hill in through here, you'll be able to have some good contrast behind it. And I'm also going to have some pine trees kind of popping up in through here. So just bringing this down like this, down in through here. This is going to be probably the end of this mountain range, somewhere in through here. I'm going to now pick up a little bit of my light blue on my dirty brush, because I don't want to get this too dark in through here, but I want it to blend a little bit more. So I just picked up a little bit of my light blue, and now I'm going to just kind of make it almost look like this is a slope of sorts coming down over in this direction. Maybe this will be in front of these back hills over, or these back trees in through here. And again, there's going to be a lot of information in our landscape that will help to make these little details that you've put in there, make them softer and more diffused and more in the distance, so you don't have to worry about that too much. I am going to now pick up a touch of my light blue plus a little bit of white. I'm not sure, I did say I was going to use white. I'm going to put a little slope coming down in through here. This is where I'm going to have some additional trees and stuff. And I want this edge to be soft, so I'm just going to kind of rough that, kind of blend those two a little bit in through there. And again, I'm not doing much. I mean, that's kind of the nature of this. I'm picking up a little bit of my light blue and white. I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot to get a lot of information to appear. And then I'm going to go back to my dark blue right in this little area in through here. So I just picked up a little bit more of my dark blue. And this is just going to give me a place where my train is going to disappear into the mountain, and then I'm going to just get these two to blend in. So that's all I'm going to be doing for the base coat of my distant mountains. And we are going to be using, I think I want to use my small bristle brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out the small bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the distant mountains. I'm going to be using my small 1/4 inch bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are white, yellow, red, my plum color, my dark blue, and probably, that might be it. Oh, some of my light blue, maybe. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm looking to do is just finesse these a little bit more. We are going to have the illusion of some distant pine trees that we'll put in a future step. But right now, I just want to put a second layer on these mountains, as well as make this area in through here brighter, because I want this light source to really say that it's lighting up this area in through here. So I want that to be pretty darn light. So I'm going to approach it color-wise similarly to how I did the sky, where I started with the light color and worked my way to the darker colors. I'm going to do that same thought process on the mountains, where I'm going to start with my light colors and work my way to the dark. And then I will also, while I'm doing this, kind of finesse some of these mountain faces where they're facing the light source. I'll make them a little bit lighter, or put some more color into them. So I'm going to first start with a little bit of white paint on my brush. So I know in through here I want to be super duper light. So I'm going to take some white paint and I'm going to lighten up a lot of this area. So you can use different types of brush strokes. Right now I'm just going to kind of use a combination of rubbing and maybe scrubbing a little bit in order to get these areas to be really lighter. Once I start running out of paint, which I'm doing right now, this is where I can use the remnants on my brush to come out put a thinner layer of the lightness on top of what I've already done. So this is where scrubbing or scumbling would be used. I'm starting with just white. I will put additional colors on top of this, but I really wanted a light base to build these colors on top of. So that's where I am starting with white, allowing myself to kind of scrub out the light value of my white as I'm running out of paint. So I start pretty heavy in that center, and then I let it kind of dissipate out to the left and the right. And all the while I can say, okay, well, maybe I want a little face of a mountain in through here, so I can just put an extra light area in through there. You can have fog in your valleys. You can really have some fun with those type of effects. And again, a lot of this area is going to be disguised or hidden by the smoke that's going to be coming up from your train. But right now I'm just kind of allowing myself to get some light areas in through here. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna put some more darkness over here. I just wanted to get these light values in through here. I'm working also with what is already light. So where I see those light areas, those are the areas that I can kind of tap into and just kind of enhance. You don't have to do them all, and you don't have to bring them all into the same color value, but you can certainly utilize them for their already inherent light areas. And then I'm just going to kind of allow for this to happen in through here. Again, I don't want this to be too light everywhere, just more in that center. I think I need this to be a little bit lighter as well, and then I'm going to start adding additional colors on top of these. I don't need this to go all the way white, but something like that will certainly work. And then if I felt that there was any areas in through here, I definitely feel like in through here should be on the lighter side. So I'm going to actually use white plus my light blue on my brush. Not a lot of light blue, but a little bit, in order to get this a little bit lighter in through here. And again, I'm also using kind of a directional brush stroke at this point in order to explain the story of the snow as to it's like in this area. I feel like I want this to look like it's kind of a hill. So I'm using this directional brush stroke to tell the viewer what direction that snow is falling or has rolled down the mountain. And then in through here, I'm going to pick up some of my dark blue now down in this area in through here. I feel like I want this to kind of be a little bit darker down at the bottom of this hill in through here. So now that I've got that kind of accomplished, I've got my lighter values where I want them down that center. Now I can start just adding any little color tonal changes that I want. So I just washed and dried my brush. I'm going to start back with my white right in this area here, making sure it's dry. I'm going white right in through here, and then I'm going to start working it out like I did my sun or my light source. I'm going to pick up a teeny tiny bit of yellow, and again, just a itty bitty bit on my brush. I don't need much, just a tiny bit, just to give maybe a little yellow glow from that sun on some of these snowy areas, because snow is definitely a reflective type of material, so it can certainly reflect those colors. Now I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of red, yellow, and white, and again, just a itty bitty bit on my brush too. That's probably too dark, so I just picked up a little bit more white, just a little itty bitty bit, again, just to kind of allow for some of these hues of that light source. I'm going to now pick up white plus a little bit more red, and then just allow for, I need more red than that. My yellow is overpowering right now, so I need to back that off a little bit. There we go. Sometimes that red can, or the yellow can really overpower. So a little bit of red is now allowing for me to get some of these additional hues in the mountains. And again, it's because there's snow on here, so snow is going to be very reflective. Putting a little bit of water on my brush so I can get more of like a glaze happening on here, as opposed to it all being a solid color. So a glaze is where it's going to be a transparent layer of paint that allows for the colors to be seen that are underneath that one particular layer. So you can use thinned out paint to accomplish that. You can use a little bit of liquid medium to create those effects, or like I do, I use a little bit of water. So right now I've got a little bit of red and a little bit of water and a little bit of I think I had a little bit of white on there as well, and just putting a hue of these kind of reddish type of tones on top of here. And I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I think that that's too yellow for me in through there, so I'm going to pick up a little bit more white to just kind of dull that down a little bit. Yeah, that looks better to me. And then just kind of soften that out a little bit. I'm digging that. And then if there's any additional little pieces over here, I can just kind of put that in a little bit. Maybe a little bit of red is going to come on these guys in through here. There we go. So I like that. So now I just need to move into my this hill right here, or this mountain in through here. So if I did have any little pieces over here like that need a little bit more just second layer to make sure that they look finished, or just I'm just rubbing on the remnants of my brush and any little spots that feel unpainted, you can certainly do that. Or you can come in with your original dark blue or dark purple if you needed to, which I didn't even use any of that, but if you felt that maybe any of the little tips, like I just picked up some of my purple and white, like if you felt you needed to kind of finesse any of those little edges, you could certainly tap back into that dark color. Or like I went outside my lines up into there, so you can certainly finesse with any of those colors that you feel would benefit you. So I'm digging that. I'm going to move on to this closer one, and I don't really need to do much here. I'm going to use a little bit of my light blue in order to maybe capitalize on some of these peaks or these faces of the hills. And again, I'm really just looking to kind of finesse it so it looks finished. So if I have some areas that like over in through here don't feel like they feel like they need another layer, so I'm going to use a little bit maybe of my light blue. Actually, I'm going to go into my lavender with a little bit of white as well. So this will give me a couple of different tones on these peaks or on these faces of the hills. So this way it's not just two individual colors. You can really just play with using some of that plum color as well as the light blue in order to create these different tones within that snow. And again, I'm looking to have mine read as, you know, tall, snowy mountains. You can certainly have yours more hills. So I think a mountain is going to be more pointy on the top. Not all the time, but if you want it to be more kind of rolling hills, I think you'd have like more of a flat, not flat, but gentle kind of rolls. And for me, if I'm thinking that it's snowy mountain, I'm going to have some areas where the snow is going to slide down that mountain. So maybe you've got, you know, little areas that are, again, explaining to the viewer that maybe there's a little down shaft or a little area that the snow kind of rolls down, or cliffs or something along that line. But again, I'm working with what had happened on the first step. I'm seeing where there's some light areas, and I'm capitalizing on those. So I don't need to, once you've got that first layer on there, you don't have to really plan it out anymore unless there's areas that you think don't look right. So I just kind of let happen what was going to happen. I just picked up some of my dark blue And now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going back and saying, okay, well, there's dark here. Now I can still put dark there, but I can also kind of rub in some of the lighter tones as well. And now maybe this is going to look like a little pine forest area, because I see that I've naturally got some little pop-up areas. So you can build it based on what happened intuitively on that first step. If I've got, you know, a lighter area in through here, well, then maybe that becomes the peak or the face of that particular hill. And I don't need this one to be as light or as bright as that one, because this one, it can be is kind of shading itself. So know that that is totally possible. And then as I come down here, I think I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that dark lavender and just kind of get this to give me a little bit more movement on the bottom of this hill in through here. And then I might fiddle with mine a couple more minutes, but I'm thinking that I'm pretty happy with the way that it is. So we are going to be using, just adding a little bit more of this lighter, the lavender plus a little bit of lavender. I'm calling it lavender, it's the plum. I don't know why I'm calling it, it's similar. So maybe something in through here that works out well. And then there's going to be a big tree here. I think that's all I want to do. I don't really need to overdo it. We're going to have pine trees coming in through here and some more on this hill, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So that's all I'm going to be doing. We're going to use our drawing utensil for the next step. So you can put your brush away, take out some kind of drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for the train. I'm using a white piece of chalk. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I'm going to guide you through a series of markers. We're going to connect those markers, and by the time we're done, we'll have a nice basic shape that we'll be able to utilize during the painting and process. So we're not going for any fine-tuned detail on this drawing. We're just going for a big shape that we can color in during the painting process, and we'll put all those little details on later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you find the center of canvas, so top to bottom, left to right. I've already marked mine because it's tough to find that blindly. So here's the center of my canvas. I like to give you that marker so we can just kind of build our way off of that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be drawing an oval shape. So I'm going to come down from here about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and then I'm over to the right about 3.5 inches. This is going to be my first marker. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down from that about 2 inches, give myself another marker. I find myself the center of here, right about here, and then I'm going to go out to the right. The width of this is about 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches. So if I did my math there, it'd be a little less than 1 inch to the right and a little less than 1 inch to the left, something like that. So it's a little bit more narrow than it is tall. And then I'm just going to connect these in the shape of an oval like this. So that's going to be our first thing that we do. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to this bottom right hand corner, give myself a marker right about in through here. And then what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to come down, straight down until I'm about 2.5 inches from the bottom of my canvas. So somewhere in through here. So if I go over to the right, and I just want to show you how close it is to here. So it's about 1 inch below that, somewhere in through there. And in the center of your canvas, something like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be connecting here to here, but I want it to go a little bit farther. So I'm going to travel over to the left about 1, 2, 3 inches, and then up maybe about 1/2 inch, something like this. So now I'm just going to connect these 3 markers like this. It doesn't have to be a perfectly diagonal line. It can have a little bit of bend to it. It's all going to be disguised by snow, so we don't need any straight lines here. Then what I'm going to do, I want there to be kind of an identity of the foreground land versus where the train is coming out. So that's going to happen somewhere in this vicinity. So that's why I wanted to stop this line right in through here. So I'm just going to kind of give myself this kind of curved line. Mine is meeting where I have this dark section to the light section. You might not have yours at exactly the same spot, but you want to just have some kind of area where the train and the train tracks are going to disappear behind this foreground land to this back mountain land or hill, whatever you want to call it. So once I have this, now what I can do is I can start building the train and the rest of the train tracks. So what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to come back to my oval. I'm going to come to the right maybe about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to give myself a little marker and just draw myself a vertical line that's maybe a little bit taller than an inch. And then I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to travel up this line about 2.5 inches, somewhere in this vicinity. I'm going to connect here to here. This is going to be the top of my train, and it's going to just disappear inside that that mountain. So I'm going to go horizontally for just a little bit, maybe about 1, 2, maybe so it's a little bit past here, and then I can start scooping this down like this, and then just kind of bring it out like that. Again, doesn't have to be anything perfect, just something that'll get you in that direction. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to come directly below this this oval until I'm about, I would say, 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch away from that line, somewhere in through here. And I can connect here to, oh, I'm going to come up here about 1 inch, something like that. And I can connect here to here with a diagonal line like that. Now I'm going to put a little strange kind of shape on the front of here. This is going to be part of, I don't know what it's called, the thing on the front of the train that makes sure that if there's anything on the train that it pushes it off. It's like a shovel kind of thing. I don't know what the correct name of it is, but so I'm going to just kind of come out from here like this, just kind of give myself a line. Then I'm going to do a little diagonal line like that, and then I'm going to just kind of come in, and then I'm going to give myself this like little kind of box type of a look in through there. I'm going to now come out from this corner, maybe about 1 inch, just give myself a little kind of rectangular shape out through there. And then I'm going to come up to the top in through here, and I'm going to give myself a little smokestack. So I'm just going to give myself a little rectangle, and then you can just kind of pull out those little corners like that. And that's all I'm going to do for my outline. Again, I'm just giving you a basic outline that we'll be able to build off of. So this is all I'm doing. You can make any little fiddling adjustments that you want. You can erase that center part of your canvas. You can take out I'm going to be using my number 5 round brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for the train and the train tracks. I'm going to be using my number 5 round brush, and the color I'm going to use is black. So I'm just going to be coloring it in black. I don't need to do anything fancy. I just added a little bit of water to my black so I can have a little bit of extra moisture on within my bristles. So when I do small areas like this little stack part, I can have these nice clean edges to it. So for me, I do like to use moisture in my paint because I like my paint to sink into the little crevices of the canvas and make sure I have you know, clean lines where I want clean lines. So that helps me to do that. It's okay if you still see a little bit of your outline. Sometimes I like to leave a little bit of my outline. That helps me kind of stay within my lines. So I did that section to show you the little edges. I'm also going to do my oval section because I actually want to leave a little bit of the evidence of my outline because I want to know where this object is when I go to paint the details on my train, because it's going to be an important kind of anchoring object for me, and it'll help me to build my all the details around it. We'll use this kind of like I used the center of the canvas when I did the main drawing. I like to use points of reference in order to work myself through drawings. It helps me to keep them in proportion and things of that nature. So I'm gonna come out and paint these little pieces. And I'm also, when I go to do the train track itself, we're gonna add a little bit of extra, a little additional details on that as well. I think I wanna kind of pull this as I come down here. I want to kind of pull this out and give a little bit more of a funner shape, something like this. And we will be adding lots of additional kind of fun shapes and stuff to make this look like it's got more believable kind of mechanical mechanisms. But as you go through yours, if you feel like an edge like this, you want something extra already, you can certainly add that. I am not a train expert, so all the little mechanisms and details and stuff like that, I a lot of times will just, when I'm doing a painting like this, I will have fun with it, and I'll be like, oh, I think I want a little mechanism here. Or if I'm painting like a tractor or, you know, something that my expertise does not allow me to know all of the intricate details, I don't like to get hung up on a lot of details, especially when I'm doing just fun, carefree paintings. I mean, this is just intended to be a fun, whimsical, wintry painting, maybe with a little bit of train magic in it. I don't need it to be photorealistic. So as I'm going through these type of paintings that could really become difficult with their details, I tend to back off of that because I know where my happy place is when it comes to painting, and it's kind of painting quickly. I get a lot of joy out of painting quickly, and so that does not bode well for tons of details, tons of accurate details. So as I'm doing these, again, I like to kind of freestyle the mechanical elements, and you know, I try and keep it so it looks believable, but I definitely don't get hung up on those little details. If your brain wants you to do that, then you can certainly get photo references of actual, this is a steam engine, you can get photo references of steam engine trains and use that as your detail kind of inspiration. But if you've got a brain like I do and don't want to get hung up on those details, then just follow me. I'll teach you the simple route to make it look believable without having to go into lots of detail. And again, I'm just coloring in my section. I am leaving some of my outline. For me, I also tend to, if my outline disappears on me, I tend to make my objects bigger because I don't know where that border or that barrier is. So I will often leave just a little evidence of my outline, so that way I don't make that object larger than I had intended to. It just keeps me in check that whole time. And again, just bringing this down to here, and we're just painting this whole section in with black paint. I'm reserving my little train track area because I'm going to show you how I'm going to add just a minimal amount of detail onto that train track area in order to get the tracks to start to appear, because this is again going to be disguised a lot by snow at the bottom of it. So right now what I'm going to do is, instead of coloring this whole section in with black, I'm just going to take the tracks and I'm going to do, which is going to be my chalk lines. So I'm going to do like this, get a little bit more water on my brush so I can get a more fluid stroke. It's going to go right underneath my train in through here, and then this one is going to come out like this. And again, just a little bit of water on my brush allows me to get that line to be a little bit smoother. Now, this is again going to be hidden in snow. So what I want to do right now is I'm just going to give the illusion of some the cross bars. You want to keep these more horizontal than diagonal. I'm going to have mine a little diagonal, kind of at the same diagonal that the train is, and I'm just going to really give these loose, kind of sketcherly, slightly diagonal lines like this. And I'm even going to bring them out a little bit past this, past the track itself on this side. So something like this. I don't need them to be perfect because they're going to be disguised by snow. I just want to give the illusion of that kind of angle, I guess is the best way to say it. And even in through here, these are just going to disappear in that snow. And that's all I'm going to do for that step. I am going to be using my small bristle brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out a small bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish background trees and atmosphere. So this is going to be, I'm going to use my my small bristle brush. I'm going to be using black, dark blue, the dark plummy color, white, yellow, red, and I think that's it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put some background pine trees in place. I wanted to put my train in first because I do want some little pine trees popping out, and I want to make sure that I've got some bright snow in strategic spots behind it. I also want there to be some atmosphere of right where the train is kind of coming out the tunnel, as if maybe there's a light on in the tunnel and it's glowing on the mountainside in through here. So I want to finish up this hill with some pine trees and over in through here, and then this little atmosphere information. So that's what we're doing on this step. Back trees and atmosphere. We are going to have some foreground trees and snow and stuff that are going to sit on these pieces of land. I might put some rocks and stuff too. So we'll call this our foreground stuff. So we're just going to tackle this with, first I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black paint on my brush. I don't need a lot. I just kind of want to give myself a couple of ideas as to where I want some of my darker trees and stuff to go. So I have just a little bit of black paint on my brush. I already have a few kind of illusions of some trees in through here, so I can enhance some of those by just putting a little kind of tip of black, or if you wanted the dark blue or the dark purpley kind of color, you can certainly do that. But if you want some, I picked up my dark blue plus a little bit of black. If I wanted one to kind of pop up in through here, I'm picturing these to just be pine trees, so I'm giving this long triangular type of appearance to them. I'm just enhancing a couple of these. So this is black plus my dark blue right now. When you get into the lighter areas, you can just transition into just the dark blue if you wanted to. And I'm really just kind of tapping my brush left to right to give me the illusion of these trees. And I'm allowing for some of the lighter tones from underneath them to appear, to stay there, so that way they look as if maybe those are little pieces of snow on them. If I want them to look a little bit closer, I can do more black on my brush, and that's going to make them look a little bit closer to me. I got to make sure I'm making these straight. Sometimes when I'm painting from the side, everything kind of tilts away a little bit. So just making sure that I've got that on in through there. That looks pretty good. I do want a couple in this hill here, but I think I need to lighten up some of that hill first before I do that. But first, I'm going to just kind of put a couple more of these little illusions in through here, maybe a little tip up in through here. But I don't think I want any real dark ones back there, but I might want one or two back in through here. So I just put a little bit more, whoops, where'd my paper towel go? Let me get my paper towel. A little bit maybe in through here. And again, I'm picturing these to be off in the distance, so I don't really need to do much. I can make them really out of focus, so that's where I'm using this bristle brush to allow me to just kind of rub them in as opposed to paint them with a lot of heavy paint. Maybe I want a couple in through here. Again, I'm going to add a little bit more atmospheric dimension in there in a minute. So that's looking pretty good. While that's drying, I'm going to wash my brush so I can do this light atmosphere in through here. So washing and drying my brush, making sure I've got all that black off of there because I want to use white. So there we go. Got that black off of there. So I'm gonna make this, oops, it's gonna be right here, similar to what I did for the actual light source. So I'm gonna start with a touch of white, the sun up there. So a touch of white is gonna lighten up all this area in through here, and I'm gonna bring it right to the top of my train. And if you bump into your train a little bit, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And then I'm gonna just rub this out so it gets thinner and thinner the farther away from that center place that I had it. And my brush, because I'm using a firm bristle brush, it allows me to just kind of keep scrubbing and push that paint out as far as I want. I'm just gonna blend this a little bit more in through here, and I want it to be pretty dramatic. I don't even think that that's dramatic enough, so I'm actually going to pick up a little bit more white paint, get it to go a little bit brighter. And you can also, I'm going to be adding additional colors on top of this, but if you want, you can just let it dry and just keep adding that lightness until you get that gradient where it is kind of lighter in the center and then it fades out into that darker area. I am now going to pick up a little bit of white plus red plus yellow, so white, red, and yellow, and again just a teeny tiny touch of the red and the yellow on my brush, and this is where I'm going to get that that illuminated look to it, similar to how we got the look in the sun or the light source that we had over in that direction. And of course you can make yours more orangey or more pink, whatever works for you. That's going to be up to you if you want to make it lighter or darker, but again, I'm just using white, red, and yellow to get it to fade out in through here. And you can see some areas a little more yellow than others, some is a little bit more pink. It's not going to matter in the big scheme of things because we've got this really fun atmospheric approach that I'm taking. I am going to pick up a tiny bit more white paint right now just to get this a little bit lighter in through here. I really want it to kind of scream as a very light area in through here, so I just keep building it. Sometimes you can get it on the first shot, sometimes you gotta keep building your way to that light value that you want. And if you find that you're trying to build it too fast and the paint, it could be lifting on you, lifting off the canvas, you might actually need to wait a minute for it to dry, and then you can put another layer on top of it. So those are things that you just kind of experiment with and learn as you go, that sometimes if you build it too fast and the paint underneath is not dry enough, it can kind of bore a little hole into your paint. But I think mine was pretty dry enough for me to just kind of put another layer on top of that. That looks pretty to me. So now I'm going to pick up some of my color that's next to it, which is dark blue, on my dirty brush, and make sure that it kind of eases its way into this darker blue color. So because I didn't wash my brush, I allowed those colors to kind of mix together. I think actually I'm going to pick up a little bit of my light blue as well. So I have dark blue and light blue in here, and that way it'll just kind of allow those two sections to look like they're merging into each other. Picking up a little bit of white on my dirty brush right now just to get that light blue to go a little bit lighter as it's meeting this atmospheric information over in through here. And I'm digging the way that that's looking, so I'm gonna call it on that section. So now what I've got to do is just kind of finish up in through here. I want this to look like it is softer in through here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more white on my dirty brush. So I had my light blue on there as well. And I'm just going to allow, actually I'm going with a little bit of red too, just to get some more of this glow in through here, right on this bottom part of this hill, sneaking it right in between those trees, just allowing for it to look atmospheric, like there's, you know, that light source might be kind of illuminating a little bit of this snow in through here at the bottom of this hill. There we go, that looks nice. And then as I'm working my way up this hill, I want a big light spot up in through here. So I'm going to actually go for white with a little bit of that purple, that plum that we had, and I'm going to put this these different tones within the snow in through here. So this is going to allow it again to give you another value to that white snow. I'm going to just allow some lighter patches in through here. Now I'm going to pick up just white to give myself an even lighter area in through here. And again, in my head, I'm saying, okay, well, I want this to look like a hill that's kind of just sliding down in through here. So I want to make sure that I give those brush strokes the information. You can even put little lightness between some trees if you've got the trees going on in through there. And then I just need to put a couple more trees on. So I wiped my brush off. I think I'm gonna go for some of my plum and a little bit of black. So plum and a little bit, so I did some dark blue. Now I'm gonna go a little bit of plum and dark and black. Maybe we put a couple kind of in the middle of the hill. I might go more black in a second here, but I was feeling the plum, but we're gonna go plum with black just to kind of give myself, maybe I've got a couple in through here. So putting them maybe as if they're behind the train, you know, maybe right on this slope as it's coming down right before, you know, now I will put more of the atmospheric dimension in front of it. You can really just have fun with wherever you want to place them. Again, I'm just kind of making mine look as if they are triangular shape, which means that they're going to have a bigger point at the top. I think actually I want this one kind of taller, just give myself some good height on that one. I'm going to have some foreground trees. I think, let's see, I'm thinking that's pretty good for the number of trees. Maybe just another, I'll scoot another one maybe right off of here. And then I think that's pretty good. So now I just need to finesse the little bits of snow on top of them. And I feel like this needs to be a little bit foggier, so I'm going to wash and dry my brush. Wash and dry my brush. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to put a little bit of snow on these guys back. Oh, I need something here too. That needs a little bit of finessing. I'm picking up a little bit of light blue. I'm just giving myself a little extra. I feel like that's too much of a cutoff point in through there. I want it to look more like there's some fog and stuff down in through here. That looks good. Yeah, I like that better. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of my dark blue. Again, just give myself just a little hint of some treetops. I already had them, but now that I just kind of softened that up with that fogginess, just wanted to re-identify them. That looks good. So now I'm going to pick up, I want a little bit of snow on my trees, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of white plus my light blue. I don't want these to go too white, so just a little bit of white plus my light blue is going to allow me to give the illusion of some snow on these trees without overdoing it. You could even on these guys in through here just go for the light blue, or you know, on the left side you could make it darker than the right side. So I guess the moral to my story is don't put it too bright and don't put too much. Just a little itty bitty bit will allow you to give the viewer the illusion that there is snow on these trees. You could even on these black ones use a little bit of your dark blue. So knowing that you have the ability to just put varying tones of the blue and a lighter version of, you know, blue or you know, that plum tone, just something that's going to give the you know, the appearance of maybe just little pieces of snow just kind of resting on the tops of some of these trees that are poking out of the hillside, you know. And if you do too much, you can always just kind of strategically use a little bit more of that swirling brush stroke to give a little more atmospheric dimension on it. Even in through here, I can put little bits on these guys, in through here. Again, just allowing the viewer to understand that there is in fact snow on these trees. And again, you can have as much or as little as you want. That will be up to you. And then I feel like I need a little bit more lightness in through here, so I'm going to wash and dry my brush. Washing and dry my brush, picking up a touch of white, and I just want, I don't need a lot, so I'm just going to use a little bit of white and kind of rub it out so we can have that light spot, so the viewer understands that there is in fact maybe a bright spot on that hill, but not super duper bright. And the scrubbing of it allows me to thin it out and make it so it's not so super bright. And then I want to dull down this little piece in through here, so just a little bit of red and white on my brush. Give that a little softer edge as it is in front of these trees in through here. And then I would just fiddle with it. Once I've got all of my information where I want, I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot more. Just maybe if I felt that any of the areas needed to be softened or brightened or darkened, I could certainly do that. But I do know that I've got more steps to go with my foreground that is going to disguise a lot of this or pull the eye away from a lot of this background. So I know that I don't really need to overindulge in my details back here, but you've got to bring it to a place that you are comfortable with and that you are satisfied with, and that's feeding your painterly eye and making you nice and happy. And then once you've got that accomplished, you can let's see, we are going to be using, I think I want to use the same brush for the next step, so you can wash and dry, if you can stop this step, wash and dry this small bristle brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're doing the base coat for our foreground trees. I'm using my 1/4 inch bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are black and yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix myself a custom green color, and we're going to be using that plus black to create our base color, or our base coat for these trees. So I have already pre-mixed my magical green on my palette, which is right here. How I achieved this is mostly yellow and just a little bit of black. You don't need a lot of black. If you use too much, it will just turn it black. But if you add just a little bit of black at a time, it's going to come into this beautiful forest green type of a color, and I'm going to be using that plus black on my brush to create the base coat for these trees. So I'm going to have 2 trees on the left and 2 trees on the right. I'm first going to just give myself some what I'll call them place markers, but you can call them trunks if you want to. So that's going to be kind of my first one, and then my second one is going to come somewhere in through here. I need some more, so you can see how green that is. I love the magical green made from black and yellow. So this one I'm going to have maybe just a little bit lower than that one, and this one's going to be off my canvas. Over on the right hand side, I'm going to have one somewhere in through here, and I'm going to have this one not as tall as my train. I'm going to have it maybe up to this part of my train, so somewhere in through here. And then the next one I'm going to have is going to be, I would say, almost as tall as this one, somewhere in through here. And then I'm going to take this and bring this down a little bit further down into the ground, like that. So for me, when I'm doing these kind of trees, I'm just doing a generic pine type of tree. I like to kind of if you put the back ones in first and work your way to the front ones, that'll get your mind kind of straight as to if they overlap at all. So I'm going to do my back ones first. Again, I'm using both the black and the green on my brush at the same time so I can get a kind of diversity in the colors. I want to know how wide the bottom is, especially on this one, before I kind of go for it. Otherwise, I will probably make it too wide. So I'm going to just kind of give myself a couple of little markers in through here. And that's going to give me my long triangular type of a shape. And all I really need to do is maintain a pointy tip top. So what I like to do, what I'm going to do for this particular application, is I'm going to just kind of dot down like this to get myself down to the bottom. And now I can, if I want to or am comfortable enough, I can pop out these little edges that come out just a little bit further. They don't all have to go down, they don't all have to go up. I'm just kind of dotting my brush in order to give myself a little bit of additional kind of texture on the edge of the tree. I recommend not going too consistent with your stroke. So, like, you don't want it to be too systematic and liney. So some areas I'll pop it out a little bit more. Some areas I'll be a little bit more shallow with it. And when you step back from it after you feel like you're all done, you can pretty much see if it reads as a natural kind of profile, then you're doing pretty good. If it looks a little bit liney, like each branch is exactly the same width apart from one another, then you may want to consider putting in some little filler pieces in between. But I'm thinking that looks pretty good for that one. So I'm going to work on this one over here. So again, black plus my green. And we're going to make these look a little bit more different from one another when I put the snow on them later. So this is, again, just going to be my first coat. This left-hand side of this one is going to go right off my canvas, so I can just dot that right to the edge of my canvas. And then on the right-hand side, if I don't want to cover up that corner, that's fine. But for me, I think it will look pretty neat if it does get covered a little bit. So I'm going to, oops, I have a little bristle that's going to drive me crazy, but we're just going to deal with it. So as I'm going down this, again, just trying to make these not look exactly the same. And then when I go to, if I want to cover this corner and if I don't want to lose my idea of where I've covered it, I can just go all black, and the black will, I can see it on my end. You might not be able to see it on your end, but that will tell me where that kind of overlaps, because I can see the difference between it and the green behind it. And this one, this tree that I'm working on right now is closer to the viewer, so it would make sense if you had the branches almost looking bigger and popping out a little bit more, so that'll make it look like, perspective wise, that it's closer to the viewer than that one is. So that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and work on the ones to the right. So again, green and black are on my brush. And then this little guy in through here, just going to kind of tap down that trunk and make it a little bit wider down at the bottom. So again, I don't want it to be too big or too invasive. So I'm just being mindful of, just making it smaller. So I'm just kind of tapping these little edges out to give myself little tiny branches. And again, we'll put snow on these guys later. And where they meet the ground, we'll also have some snow down there as well. And then this one on the right, again, these can look bigger because this tree is going to be closer to us than that one. So as you're doing your branches, as they come out in an individual kind of way, they can appear to be thicker or bigger. I am going to have this one kind of crossing over that little corner of that tree. I'll get to that in a second. I'm going to have this one, actually I think I want this one to almost kind of go right off the canvas and maybe come down in front of this guy And you can see how, because I'm bringing it down further in the canvas, it's making it look, it's pulling it more forward towards that viewer. And then as I do these guys over here, I just put more green on my brush, whereas the other one I put more black because the tree behind it was a little bit more green. So just a contrasting color right where they touch will help you see the difference between the two. And then I'm just going to kind of pop out some of these branches, again trying to not keep them too consistent so that way they'll look a little bit more natural. And you could use different brushes to accomplish this. You could use fan brushes, you could use bristle brushes like I'm using, you can use flat brushes, you could use bright brushes, you could, you know, it's just a matter of brush control. I think sometimes we get a little stifled by the fact that we're supposed to be using a certain brush to do a certain task, when in fact it's really just about your brush control most of the cases, because if you understand how to maneuver that brush or load that brush, like right now what I'm doing, just to give you an example, I'm taking my brush and I'm actually squishing it on the side of my palette. So what I'm doing by doing that maneuver is I'm pulling these bristles together. So now I get to use this in a more narrow way. So those are just those little tips that as you're learning how to paint and fiddling with all of these different choices with brushes and tools and stuff, it can get overwhelming. So if you can find a way to work on your brush control, you won't be kind of handcuffed when it comes to needing a specific tool to do a specific job. So I'm thinking that that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to call it on this step. We are going to be using, we're going to use this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat for, or the, I guess I'm going to call it the base coat for the ground snow and the steam. I'm going to be using my small bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black, brown, white, and maybe some of my light blue and dark blue and purple. So what I'm going to do, I really want to approach the ground in a similar way to how I approached the mountains, which was I had a little bit more of the purpley tones where they're going to be catching the light. So this side would have a little bit more purpley or lighter tones, and same thing over in through here. And then I'm going to be doing more blue or darker tones towards that left and right of the bottom of my canvas. My steam is going to have black, brown, and white, and it's going to just look like steam coming out off the train. But we'll finesse it later, but we just need to get it in place right now. So I'm looking to put these things in place. I also might want a couple of rocks to really sell the mountainous story. So I may put a couple of bumps and stuff around the ground itself. So I am going to start with my steam. I'm going to put a tiny bit of black, a tiny bit of brown, and a tiny bit of white on my brush at the same time. So I have 3 colors on my brush at the same time. It's clearly going to come out of this area in through here. So I'm just going to kind of get myself started with where I want it to come out. So in through here. I'm going to have a mental plan as to how high I want this to go. So for me, I'm really going pretty high. I'm going to go maybe an inch or so away from the top of my canvas. And how far out is it going to go? So mine is actually going to cover quite a bit of this area in through here. So I'm going to just kind of give myself a little bit of a marker in through there. And it's going to travel kind of below big here, and then it's going to get thinner and thinner. I don't want to pull it too far past the center of my canvas. So if this is the center of my canvas, I'm going to go a little bit to the left of that. And if this was the center up and down, I'm going to bring the back kind of puff out to about here. So that just gives me a good kind of roadmap as to where I want it to go. So black, brown and a little bit of white. And it doesn't matter if yours is the same exact color as mine, just something dark and sooty looking. I'm going to have it narrow here and it's going to billow out. So narrow and then it billows out. I'm using a circular brush stroke to create this effect. And because I'm using 3 colors on my brush at the same time, I will naturally get some light spots and some dark spots. And that, again, is how we're going to build the poofs and the the poofs, that's what, not the right, the dimensional elements of the smoke or steam that's coming out. So, and again, I wanted to kind of have this soft, fluffy edge to it. So as I'm going around here, I'm utilizing this circular brush stroke in order to give me those soft, circular type of edges. So I'm going to continue on this way, and of course you can at times use a little bit more black, at times use a little bit more white. That those are the colors that are going to give you, or the diversity of those colors is what's going to allow this to have a lot of dimension in it. And then I'm just going to kind of allow my poof, my smoke cloud to just billow back as if it is trailing back. Oh, I went a little bit farther than I intended. No worries, we're just going to make it happen. Just keep painting and it'll be fine. So just reloaded my brush so I could make sure that I have some diversity in these colors. So something like this. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly as mine. And we will finesse it a little bit more later. This is just giving us that place to jump off of and to work from. It's tough to just think that you're going to be able to make it finished with one pass. So always, for me, I'm always anticipating more than one pass. I'm anticipating building my elements onto it. So that's how I work my way through this. I just put a little bit more darkness coming in through here. There we go, that works out. So now I'm going to approach my snow, my ground snow, the same way. I do want to feel like I want to put a couple of rocks. So I've got that dark grayish color on my brush right now. So I think I kind of want to put maybe a little mound of rocks in through here. So I'm really just going to use this dark color to tell me where I'm going to just put some rocks. maybe I've got some rocks at the bottom of these trees. Maybe over here I've got a big rock, you know, nestled by this tree, something like that. Or maybe it's part of the tree. I feel like I want this to be a little bit darker down in through here too. So I just put a little bit more black on my brush. And as I go through these steps to create this, you may find that you want to do something different. You might find you don't want to add rocks. You like it the way that it is. But I feel that I want just a little bit more space fillers, if you will, throughout the land. So that's where I'm putting these in here. I'm now going to pick up a little bit of my dark blue on my dirty brush to get the back side of these where I have the rocks, to get the snow behind them to be pretty darn dark. So I just put a little bit of the dark blue on my brush, knowing that my light source is over there. I would naturally have kind of a shadow on this left side of them. And I'm not coloring it in too much. I'm just in my head saying, oh, there should be a little shadow behind them. I also want a little bit of shadow in the tracks over in through here, in the snow between these tracks. So I'm just using the remnants on my brush, which were the dark blue plus whatever remnants I had from the smoke, to put some little shadowy marks over on this side, and then maybe some little shadow on the back side of this tree. I feel like I also want to have a little kind of light spot of some snow in through here, so that will work. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna wash my brush now so I can actually, let me just pull a couple more little dark marks in through here. I'm going to wash my brush because I want to start adding my lighter snow. So washing and drying my brush, or my lighter layer of my snow. And so my snow, I'm going to use white and that plummy, purpley, lavendery color, and my light blue. And if I need to tap more into my dark blue just to get it to blend, I will. So I'm going to start with white and a little bit of that lavender on my brush. And I know that I have a light source here, so this to me would naturally be light. So I'm going to get this color. Oh, I need a little bit up in through here too. And just get that too. We'll finesse the edges of that tree so it doesn't look so disconnected. When you're doing this too, be mindful of the edges of that tree. So you don't want it to look like you're painting around the tree. And what I mean by that is you don't want a big naked space between the tree and your snow. So this is why I didn't finish my tree yet. I am going to finish my snow before I picked up more of my lavender, so I can get this a little bit darker here. So I can work these little pieces of snow behind the tree, in between the branches, and that way it'll look a lot more natural than if I was to paint the front tree 100% done and then have to go back and try and scoot these other colors behind it. I just picked up a little bit more white, just allowing for some lighter spots on the snow, but on my dirty brush, mind you. So a little bit like this. And when I go to do the train, I might bump into some of this snow, which is why this is just my first layer of my snow. So I will, finish the train, then we'll finish the snow, then we'll finish these front trees. So it's all a matter of what order it makes sense to do it in. I feel like I want a little bit more warmth in this snow. I'm actually going to pick up a touch of brown plus white. Brown plus white is going to give me a little bit more warmth in this snow as it's kind of being lit up by the train lights and the light source. So you can work your way towards the brightness, towards the whiteness, by using different the hint of another tone. So I picked up a tiny bit of brown as well. It's got the blues underneath, which from that first layer, which will help build it, but that brown in there helped to kind of warm up that area a little bit. I like that, so I'm actually want to use it somewhere else too. So I'm going to use it over here as well. So I wanted a little bit of a little snowy hill, if you will, in front of this tree and through here. So just going to allow for a little bit in through there and maybe a little bit back in through here. Really get this edge of the train to pop out with some bright snow. And again, I'm mindful, like I just want this to be a snowy atmosphere, maybe with fog or fantasy mist or whatever. So I'm constantly trying to make these soft edges as I'm in distinct areas. So in through here, if I want it to just look like it's fading off into the distance, I can take those little remnants on my brush and just scrub it out a little bit. And that's going to, again, take this snow and just make it disappear in the distance and just fade off into the atmosphere. So you can use those techniques in order to get the illusion to occur. I feel it needs to go a little bit darker in through here, like it might go underneath the train. So I'm picking up a tiny bit of my dark blue just to give a little darkness right underneath that train in through there. And I said that this was our first layer to the snow, which means there's another step coming. So as you're going through this, don't feel like if yours doesn't look awesome right at this juncture that the end of the world is here, because it's not, because we have those other layers. I just put a little bit of white on my brush, maybe just kind of identify a couple of the tops of these rocks. They're not going to be white like this. I just want to tell myself where the top is going to go, so that way I can work some little snow around them. And again, I just know that maybe the snow would be sitting on top of some of those rocks, so that's going to allow me to have a little bit more, again, dimension to it. Allow the viewer to understand that maybe there's, you know, some kind of shape to these. Maybe this, I'm picking up a little bit of my light blue plus white. I don't know if I said I was using light blue, but I did. This was going to be a rock in through here. I'll put some snow on that in a minute, but light blue and white is on my brush right now. And again, you could opt to put the rocks on later, but to me, the rocks in a snowy atmosphere or in a snowy landscape are part of the landscape because there's snow on top of them. So I like to, you know, sometimes just build them in there with the rest of the snow. And I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good for the start of my ground making adventure. So I am going to, yeah, I'm thinking that looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to call it on this step, and I will be using my, what are we going to use for the next step? I'm going to use my, I'm going to use my number 6 round for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put the small bristle away, take out a medium round, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is, I'm going to call it the second step to the train. I said I was using my number 6 round. I don't have a number 6 round today. I have a number 5 round, so that's the brush I'm going to be using. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be adding, in essence, the highlighted color to the side of the train cars over here. And I'm also, there's a little piece in the front of the train that I'm going to add this highlighted color to. I don't know what else to call it than that. I'm going to be using, for the colors in this step, I'm using brown, red, yellow, and white. And I'm pre-mixing myself like a caramel type of a color, which I have magically already done on my palette here, so you can see where I'm headed. So this is the color I'm shooting for. How I got to this color is brown, red, yellow, and white, but it's mostly brown, and I'm adding red and yellow to it. Red and yellow makes orange. This, in essence, is kind of a muted burnt sienna type of a color, and then a little bit of white. So if you need a reference other than the word caramel, think of a burnt sienna, a rusty type of brown color. I needed a little bit more orange in it because that was a little bit steered a little bit too brown for me. And I just kind of keep adjusting it until it gets into this place I want, a little bit more red. And I just keep adding the red and the yellow a little bit at a time because I don't want it to overpower it. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And of course yours doesn't have to be exactly the same color as mine. All trains are going to come in different sizes and shapes and colors and stuff like that. And this is intended to kind of look like a black train that's just being illuminated by the light source. So this is giving it, maybe it's a metallic type of black that is very reflective and showing all kinds of shine. Maybe there's some kind of patina on it or of sorts. So I've got my caramel color on my brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of designate a couple of areas here. So from the top of my train in through here, I'm going to come over a couple of inches to maybe somewhere in this vicinity where it starts to, you know, just really dip down. And I'm going to give myself a curved line like this and then bring it straight down like that. So this is maybe a little bit higher than the bottom of my oval. That's about where I have it in through there. And then what I can do is I'm going to give a little diagonal line like this, and the diagonal should be somewhere in the middle of these two. So it might actually almost be horizontal now. I'm looking at it from the bottom. Yeah, that's a horizontal line from the bottom of my canvas. And then another little vertical line like this. And then I'm going to bring this all the way back, again, almost horizontal in nature, all the way back until kind of disappears in through there. I'm then going to take and do something similar from here. I'm going to take from the top of here, and if I just kind of go to the left, I would say maybe about an inch, and then down just a little bit, somewhere in this vicinity. I'm going to give myself another kind of curved line similar to up here, so like this, and then just curve it down like that, something like that. And then this I'm going to just give myself a little line like this. All of this will make sense in a minute. So what I've just done here, oh, maybe I can, I guess, do this too. What I've just done here is I've made myself two sections, one here and one here. I'm going to be coloring them in with this color, but I don't necessarily want a solid color. So what I'm going to do, I've got the remnants on my brush. I'm going to use the side of my brush and just kind of rub it in here and allow for some of that black underneath to show through. So this way it's going to give me, oops, I just moved my canvas a little bit. This way it's going to give me a little weathered kind of look to it. And I don't want this outline to be super evident down at the bottom or around the edges. So I'm going to make sure that that is well disguised. And I'm also going to make sure that I've got this top all the way to my background. So I don't want any gaps between a fully rendered landscape behind there and my train. So I'm going to just make sure that I have this all the way in here. And this line does not need to be perfect. We're going to be, in a little while, we're going to add some details to it that will allow you to have some unevenness there. And then once I've got my designated areas, I can just use the side of my brush to scrub this on here, allowing for some light spots and dark spots. And again, that's going to give you a really unique look to the train. It's going to make it look like it's all nice and lit up by the time we're done. Not necessarily right now, but by the time we're done, it will have a really cool effect to it. Oops, I went outside my lines. So again, not a solid color, just something that is going to get this start of like a little patina type of look to it. Going to make sure I've got it all the way out that back end like this, and then I'm going to do a similar technique over here on this little section in through here. So this one's not that large of a section, so I can't really get a ton of detail on it, but I'm going to attempt to at least get a layer like this. And then once I've got that on there, I didn't use a lot of paint, and I was just, you know, kind of rubbing it on there. So it's not going to take too long for it to dry. And then what I'm going to do once it's pretty much dry, which it almost is as I'm talking, I'm blowing, just kidding. I'm going to highlight the tippy top of it. So I can wipe my brush off, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more white and a little bit of my caramel color. So white plus my caramel color, and just a little bit of the custom caramel color. And this is going to be up at the tippy top. So I can take this lighter version and just give myself a highlighted portion at the top. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to have designated separation between some of the cars. So as you're doing yours, if it's not exactly how, you know, even, it's okay, because I'll give you guidance on how to make your unevenness look intentional. So once I've got this on here, I can also just take this and rub it down just a little bit into the rest of the car. So something like that. And you might want to, if the sometimes the round brush is going to be a little bit more pliable on the tip and wiggly, if you will. If you felt that you wanted to use a sturdier brush like the small bristle brush to do this, you could certainly do that. I think that I wanted to use this one because I knew I was going to get in these littler areas So the pointier brush helps me do that a little bit better. But if you're finding that that's comfortable to you to use the other brush, you certainly can do that. And then once I've got this, I'm now going to just wipe my brush off on my paper towel, pick up more of that caramel color, and I can use a little bit more additional kind of, I don't want to call them highlights, but you could add a little bit more paint in certain areas just to add to that look of some areas are going to be lighter, some are going to be darker. I wouldn't bring the sides as bright as the top, so that's why I am just kind of allowing for a really loose second addition to it. And you can see already with that light spot up top and the little darker sides, it's already starting to get a nice shine to it. I'm going to put a little bit of this highlight right here on this guy too. So again, this is mostly white with a little bit of the caramel color on, and just bringing this right in this area, predominantly on the top. And then once I kind of curve around where I think it'll be, where it kind of curves down, that's where I just picked up a little bit more of the regular caramel color, and I'm just allowing it to be darker down at the bottom. And then fiddle with that as much as you want. We're actually going to be using the small brush for the next step, so you can put this brush away, take out, and when I say small, I mean my #1 round, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is the third step to the train. So this is, and I'm using my small brush, the #1 round. This is going to include, I think I'm going to tackle the train cars. So it'll be not the front portion, we'll do that later. It'll be these guys in through here, adding windows and details, and maybe some little fun impressionistic mechanical stuff at the bottom that we're going to hide later with some fluffy snow. But I'm going to be using this small brush. I'm going to use black, white, my caramel color, and if I use any other colors, I'll let you know, but that might be it. So what I'm going to first do is kind of pretend like this isn't here. I'm going to separate my train cars. So I'm going to put a little bit of black paint on my brush with a little bit of water, because I do, in my head, want these to be kind of clean lines. So I'm going to use a little bit of water on my brush. The front part of the train is going to be its own section, but I do have a separation. This little line in through here is where I have it kind of separated from the back of the train. So I'm going to just extend this line up, and we're going to kind of travel at a pretty similar arc as this, even though that's not the best arc in the world. Let me make that arc a little bit better. So we're going to travel up at a similar arc as this, and I'm going to end it, I would say, somewhere around here. So I'm going to kind of come out like this and just down into that line in through there. And then this is magically going to separate from the back of the train like this, and we're going to give it kind of a face onto the next one. So what I can do is I'm going to come out from here just a little bit, I would say somewhere in this vicinity, and I'm going to give myself the profile of the next car. So I'm going to start up at the same spot in through here like this, bring it down at a similar angle like this, and then right about here I'm going to give it just a little kick out like this and bring this down. And now I'm going to color in this piece black. So I knew I needed to give you guys a little, oh, and you can leave a little bit of this exterior little outline, just to, maybe we'll put a little step or something in through there. I needed to have us color in this section so we had a believable gradient from one car to the next. So this was just a really easy way that we weren't going to have to overwork that blend on each car. So we just did it first, and now I can separate each section of the train with a little bit of black paint. So again, I'm just taking black with a little bit of water, and then you can go down, and in as many places that you want to separate those cars, you can separate them. And the cars don't have to be exactly the same shape. You know, they can, like this one, I'm just going to kind of pull down. You can have bigger gaps in between some of them. Like if I do this one, maybe this one, you know, as it's going around the corner, maybe we're seeing a little bit more between these two, so maybe you widen that one a little bit, you know, similar to how we see some of the front part of that one. So that, again, the gap doesn't have to be the same. And as you go towards the back ones, maybe it's a fainter line, so you don't press as hard, or you use more water on your brush, or if you needed to use a different brush, you certainly could, and they don't have to be the same distance away from each other. I'm really just kind of allowing for these faint kind of lines right now to give the idea that there's those definitions in through there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some little details on the top of some of these cars, like there's little vents or mechanical mechanisms. So I'm going to use my black, and I'm really just going to make some, you know, little bumps and stuff. So maybe that's some kind of mechanism. Maybe this one's got a line, and then we're going to just make a whole bunch of bumps or marks. Maybe that's got some kind of thing, strappy thing. Just have fun. You can make whatever you want. Maybe this guy over here has some round stuff and something that pokes out, and I skip some, and then maybe there's a couple other little bumpy things. I have no idea what is on top of a train. You can make whatever you want. Maybe in between the cars in this area, maybe there's some kind of attachment, doodad, you know, whatever you want. You can see I'm not doing it consistent. I just want to give some idea that there is some little things on the top. Now I'm going to use that same thought process to add windows and stuff. So again, just a little bit of black and water on my brush. I don't necessarily want it to be all blocked out with windows and stuff, but maybe I have you know, the top line of a section of windows in through here. I just have to keep it kind of at a similar angle to whatever the top and the bottom are of the train, so I can just kind of put a top and bottom, and then just do a bunch of kind of vertical type of marks and shapes. But when I'm doing these vertical ones, I'm trying to concentrate on having them vertical, so that way it looks like the train is in an upright position. If you start to tip them, like I feel like this line might be a little tipped, so I might have to kind of work on that one a little bit. But the more tipped they are, the more the train is going to look like it's tipped, and it wouldn't look very safe that way. So you can certainly do whatever you want, but the vertical lines will make it look a little bit more straight. And as I'm saying that, I'm noticing how unstraight my lines are, but that's all right, because you can always work on it afterwards too. I think for me though, as I'm doing this, because I do work at an angle, I'm going to give you a big old excuse why mine aren't straight. It's because I'm at an angle, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Maybe these guys in through here are a little bit smaller. So again, just kind of give my diagonal lines to tell the way that the train is, and then the vertical lines to tell like maybe where there's windows or doors and stuff. So I can kind of you could even kind of give yourself a full-on trajectory like this if you wanted windows kind of all at the same height. So something like this, just through those doors, and it can just kind of disappear down there. If I wanted a section where there's a window that's fully open, maybe somebody needed to get a lot of air, you can just put a big black area. You can, you know, again, make little slits, whatever you want. Maybe you want a door to appear, so, or something that looks a little bit more substantial coming down the side of the train. You can certainly do that. Anything that you feel would benefit the appearance. I'm going to show you how to make some other little decorative elements. As it's going back into the landscape, you really don't need to do a whole heck of a lot because it would tend to just visually disappear a little bit. I'm putting a couple of little dark lines in through here, like maybe there's some little molding or something, maybe a couple little bolts and stuff down in through here. Again, freestyle, have fun with that. Maybe on the top of the windows, maybe there's a little molding of sorts, so I'm just going a little above those windows, just give myself a little line in through there, and maybe a couple little dark marks for bolts on top of the windows or something. You know, just have fun with it. So now that I've got that kind of in place, now I can add little bits of highlights, or a little more bolts. Like, I want more bolts and stuff, something like that. So I can wash and dry my brush, and this is where I could pick up a little bit of that caramel color plus white, and add. I can have a highlighted area around the windows. You know, something that's maybe shining from the lights. Maybe this is a little bit more of maybe there's a little kind of doorknob. I don't know if that's the right word, but handle, maybe that's the right word. But if you feel that you would have some shinier pieces, you could certainly just amp up those little shiny marks. You could even use more white as you're getting towards this back area in through here. Maybe a little bit more white on the top of the areas, and then maybe even a little extra on the sides as they're shining from that back area. They might get a little shine on these corners in through here. So now I want to put some little things underneath where where all the tracks would be. So I'm gonna, if I can stop doing these little highlights and stuff, I'm going to use black and white. So I'm going to use more grays down underneath here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of black and white on my brush at the same time and just start making things like that I feel could represent some mechanical kind of elements. So circles, diagonal lines. I'm gonna again hide a lot of this with some of my smoke. That's it's smoke and steam and snow and stuff, but I want to just give the illusion that maybe there's these mechanical elements down underneath here. So again, I don't know much about trains, but what I do know is there's a bunch of stuff underneath that makes it go down the track. So I can kind of freestyle knowing that I'm going to have an element that's going to disguise this. I am going to pick up a little bit of that caramel color. I feel like some of these, maybe I have little, stepping spots underneath where these doors might open. Maybe there's a couple little, I don't know, ladders or whatever. But whatever you feel, just mark making is going to allow you to get just a little hint of those fun details in there without, without overkilling it. Then just do it. I just picked up a little bit more white with my caramel color because I feel like I want to amp this up a little bit more. And then you just fiddle with it until you feel like you've got enough detail on it. We are going to be using this same small brush for the next step. So once you've got enough detail on that part, you can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is the fourth step to the train. I'm going to be using my #1 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, white, yellow, red, and maybe some of my dark blue. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be finishing this front section of the train, which is going to include additional little steam stacks, if I don't even know if that's what they are, but pieces coming up from the engine mechanisms. I want to add some little details on this front area, and the detail to this, I'm going to keep calling them front areas, the detail to this shovel area, this push thing that's in the front, and more mechanical stuff down in through here. Please don't have any mechanical train engineers call me out. I don't know anything about trains, but I'm having fun painting it. That's all that matters. So again, I'm using my small brush. I'm going to start by giving myself some outlines of where I want additional pieces. Like again, I said I wanted some of those pieces up and through there. Oh, I'm probably going to use my caramel color too. So what I'm going to first do is I'm making myself a gray color, which I have magically done on my palette here. How I achieve this is just black and white. I'm going for a mid-to light tone gray that I can use to just put these elements in place, and then we will add some highlights and shadows and make them come to life. So this is going to be my gray. I'm going to use that with a little bit of water on my brush. So I do want there to be some information in this front center spot. So I'm going to take my circle that I already have in place and just kind of outline it, especially on this left hand side. I'm using my gray to outline it. You don't necessarily need to outline it on the right hand side once it passes outside this train area, but if you felt that you wanted to, you certainly could. And then I can take it and just rub this gray back just a little bit in order to almost fade into this little dark section right in through here. So that looks good. And again, I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot. Just putting that on there will get that started. I also want to put a section in the center of here. So I've got my gray going, and I'm going to just give myself a smaller circular object in here. It could be oval-ish, oval, circular type of shape. I want it lighter on the top and darker on the bottom. So I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black to darken this bottom side of it. So something like this. And again, doesn't have to be anything fancy. I am just going for a really loose representation of a cool winter train. So you can, feel free to make yours as detailed as you want to, or as loose as I'm doing. So that looks pretty good to me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this gray to get my front section in place. So I already have it started over here on the right hand side, somewhere in through here. I want to bring it to right about in through here. So this, in respect to the side of here, is a little bit to the left of it. So somewhere in through here is where that's going to end up going, and I can bring this just right across the front like this. And to me, this is going to be snow that's sitting on the top of this piece. So again, don't need it to be a perfectly straight line, just something that's going to make me understand where that is. I'm going to put another circular object, but for perspective purposes, the train is going that way. So I don't want it directly below here. I actually want it to the right a little bit. So if I come down a little bit, maybe somewhere in through here, or almost in the middle, a little bit to the right of the center of this line here, somewhere in through here is where I'm going to put another little circular mechanism, if you will, like this. And then I can start pulling down those the bars. Oh, well, actually, let me give myself the bottom of it, so I can start in through here. Again, I'm just using that gray on my brush right now, and I'm going to pull this over into just right to the bottom, and maybe over to this left a little bit, and then I can start pulling down the edges and these little brace bar type things. I don't need them to show 100% because they could disappear into the into the shadows of the mechanism. I'm going to pick up a little bit more gray. We're going to have a little bit of snow here and a little bit over in through here. I actually think I need a little bit of black over here. I just wiped my brush off to give myself this bottom edge in through here and just the edge of this, something like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to now pick up more of my gray so I can put some couple of lines in through. Actually, I'm going to first I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to put some black on my brush because there's a couple of pieces that I want to stick out the edges that I need those there before I start adding highlights. So a little bit of black is going on my brush. And there's going to be some stacks coming up here, so I'm just going to give myself a couple of little pieces in through here. So I'm going to have one there, and then I'm going to have one right here. And again, yours don't have to be exactly as mine. Mine are definitely just more freestyle and interpretive, but you can make yours as complicated as you want. Maybe this one actually kind of has a different shape to the top. You can extend that if you want to, making that have a different profile than just straight across. And then I have a couple of little things I want to do over on the right side of the front. So there's going to be like a ladder coming off of these front sides. So I'm going to take this and give myself a horizontal line like this, and then a diagonal line coming to the front piece like that. A couple of horizontal lines somewhere in through here will make that resemble a ladder. Of course, we'll put the opposing side with a lighter color, and then I think I'm going to put some kind of mechanism that goes to the center of this thing here, and then out like this. And we're going to attach this to here like that, and then give some kind of bar of sorts up into here. I'm sure this is so the engineer can get to the pieces that it needs to get to. So that looks pretty good. And the kind of design that I did over here, you could do that elsewhere too if you wanted to, but I'm thinking that that's all I'm going to need there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some of my gray on my dirty brush and just kind of give myself a little silhouette of these pieces that I want. So I'm going to just kind of bring this down and silhouette it so that way I understand where the edges of these are, like this little stack in through here. I can give myself an edge like that. My headlight is going to come in through here. I want a little edge to this one over in through here. So right now I'm just kind of taking my gray plus a little bit of black on my brush and giving myself the idea of where I want some additional mechanism. So maybe I've got something here. We've got a couple little pieces in through there, maybe a little line here, a little vertical, and I'll add a couple more colors to it in a minute, but right now just want to get an idea. I can even turn like this section in through here a dark gray so it's not just black there. So I just put more black on my brush with a little bit of that light gray, and this just gives it a touch more color to it. So this is just a little hint of dark gray, so it's not just black. You could of course do that in other areas as well, but that just helps adding a little bit more information. I just picked up a little bit more of the gray and thinking that that's good for number of little objects in through there. In through here is where I'm going to put the like 2 steps or stairways or ladders, if you will. So I'm going to take this kind of where I have this guy in through here, come across something like this, and then give myself a little bit of a ladder like that. and maybe like that, and just a couple horizontal lines. 1, 2, 3. That'll give me the corresponding ladder from this set, and then I can just take that gray and just add the little hint of it on top of there. I don't really need a whole bunch underneath here. I might add a little bit in a minute, but still just working with a little bit of gray. I feel like there's got to be some kind of little platform somewhere in through here that will take me to these steps like this, and then maybe there's a couple of curved mechanisms of sorts in through there. And again, freestyle, if you will. You can use brown, you can use black, you can use your caramel, whatever you want. When I get down into here, again, I know that this area is going to be hidden or disguised with a ton of billowing smoke and stuff, so I'm just going to kind of, again, freestyle information down in through here. I do want some additional colors or whatever up in through here, so I'm going to now pick up a little bit of brown on my brush. So I just added a little bit of brown on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of add little bits of additional colors onto some of these pieces, maybe a little bit of white, just to give myself a little bit more shine. I have them all where I want them, but now it's just a matter of adding these little highlights or tones. I'm picking up a little bit of my caramel color plus white on my brush to give maybe some of these guys up in through here a little bit more pizzazz. Maybe we've got a little extra shine on here, maybe a tiny bit on the tips of here. And again, don't feel like you have to bring it super far into the detail place. Just bringing it into somewhere that you feel is good enough or makes your painterly eye happy. That's where I bring mine. I don't need to feel the pressure of making everything hyper realistic. I'm now going to pick up a little bit of white and my snow blue, so I can put a little bit of snow on the front. Snow blue, dark blue. Sorry, it's snow blue in my head. A little bit of snow on here, so this is white plus my dark blue. You can also put a little bit of that color shining on any of your chrome pieces. So you can use that dark blue and white to make areas look like snow, but you can also use it to make the chrome areas look shiny. So you can use it for a couple of different ways. And I'm going to use my my caramel plus white to just give myself a little highlight on here, maybe a little bit up these guys in through here, just to make those look like they got a little extra shine on them. And I'm going to hit the light on the headlight, because you know every train needs a headlight, especially when it's going through the snow. I'm just adding little highlights in through here so those can look like they've got something. I think that's looking pretty good. Oh, actually, I want to maybe add a couple of little things coming over here. So I just picked up a little bit of black paint on my brush. I feel like I want to have maybe like a little bar of sorts, something like that. This is black and whatever else landed on my brush at that time. Maybe a little bar in through here. And again, these are pipes, bars, whatever. Maybe there's something that comes down in through here. Whatever you think might, you know, work for adding a space filler, or, you know, something that needs a little bit more pop, or you feel that, you know, maybe missing something. I can put little bolts or black things on here, you know, just anything that will fill in that space and make you feel like you've got enough information in through there will work. So that looks good to me. I don't think I need anything more in through there. Just gonna kind of let my brush have fun for a second here, just filling in these little guys. There we go. Maybe a little highlight in through there. There we go. Now I'm going to put my light on. So I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to start with white, and just a little bit of white on my brush. I'm going to have it in this area and through here. So we're going to go right in through here. You'll want your paint underneath to make sure that it's dry before you do this. So if you're going in this area, just make sure your paint underneath is dry. So I'm getting that center to be pretty light, and then I'm going to put a little bit of water on my brush as I'm going farther away from the center. And it's going to kind of give me a glow. And I'm going to add some yellow and red to it in a minute. I'll just get this glow on. You can certainly make yours as light or as dark as you want, or you can cover this corner if you need to. So just a little bit of white and a touch of water allows me to pull out that highlight or that kind of transparent glow that I'm gonna add a little bit of red and yellow to. That looks pretty good. Just making sure I've got that center as bright as I want. I'm putting a little bit more white in the center area, like that. There we go. And once I've got that center area, now I can start going out with a tiny bit of yellow on my brush. I'm overlapping it right on top of that glow that I just did. So this is white with whatever dirtiness was on my brush. I probably had a little bit of, or excuse me, it's yellow with a little bit of white on my brush. The white is the dirtiness. And I'm just kind of putting this yellow on, and then I'm putting a little bit of water on my brush so I can get it to be very translucent, transparent, letting it glow. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of red and water on my dirty brush, and I'm going to let this red kind of just be very, I want to say it's subtle, but it's not really all that subtle. It's pretty red, but that's all right. That's what it does, right? It's going to start to glow. And if the red is too much for you, you can always add a little bit of the yellow to it so it's more of an orangey tone. And again, I'm letting it kind of glow on top of the atmosphere around it, so that looks nice. And of course, you might want to do more than one layer on that, but I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to actually brighten up this center with a little bit more white, and I would just let it dry and keep tweaking it. If I felt that it needed more yellow or more red, I certainly would just keep amping that up. That's going to be a personal preference on your part. If you want it brighter or darker, whatever works for you is totally fine. And then we're going to be using our small bristle brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can fiddle with it as much as you want. And you can take out your, see, I'm just going to fiddle. I just like fiddling. I'm going to take out my small bristle brush and play with this a little bit more and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are going to finish the steam or smoke as well as the ground, which will include the snow that the train is pushing as it is barreling down the railroad tracks. And I'll finish these little tracks too, because I don't feel like I need to do much to those. So I'm going to be using my small bristle brush, my 1/4 inch bristle. The colors I'm using are white, light blue, brown, and that might be it. That might be it. I might add a couple more colors to here, but I'm gonna just try with these colors first, and if I want to do anything else, I will. So for the smoke, my light source is over on the other side, so it's gonna be really dark over in through here, but we also have a light source down here too. So we can put little highlights on the smoke over towards this light source as well as that one. So we can just kind of highlight wherever we want really, and it'll all be okay. So I'm going to be using mostly white with a little bit, maybe I'll use a little bit of brown too for my highlights, and then I might actually incorporate a little bit of my light blue to give it enough dimension, but I'm going to start with my light highlights and then we'll work our way into the darkness if we need to. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of white and a touch of brown. So this is going to be the same thought process that I used in that bright snow, where I didn't want to go all the way white, but I still wanted it to be pretty bright. So I'm going to use white with just a touch of brown. And I can take this and I can just along these edges. Again, you don't need to do all of the edges, but you can just take it and almost kind of give these additional little soft pillowy type of marks. I definitely wanted the lightest maybe over here on this left side, as it's, you know, kind of billowing back here, maybe just trail it off a little bit more. You can always add more than you already have. You don't have to kind of stay in exactly the same footprint that you started with, but if you wanted to add kind of like an interior layer to it, you can just add a little highlight going up there. You could pull down some, you know, little billowy areas. So I'm working with where I already was kind of light in tone, and increasing the lightness of those areas. So if I see a little bit of a light area here, that would be an ample or a great opportunity to just kind of add a little bit more lightness, and then I've got additional dimension to it. Down in through here, I just want to make sure that, you know, the viewer can understand it is different than, or it's a different thing than what the background is. So I've got to play with those colors in order to, so the viewer can understand that, and that's where the contrast is going to come. I didn't use any brown in this background, so when I put brown in this smoke, it will make it look a little bit different, and that contrast will be there. So I think I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black, just to make sure that this interior part of the smoke is nice and dark the way that I kind of envision it to be, and I can again make it lighter or darker, whatever works for me, but this second layer is smoothing it out, making it look softer, allowing for it to have more of that soft smoky type of effect, as opposed to it being almost too rough and textured, which I felt it kind of was on that first pass. So just doing this second layer is helping me to make it look a little bit more soft and billowy, if that's a word. It is a word, I think. And again, I'm just using this circular brush stroke. If you'd like to incorporate some colors of the atmosphere, you could certainly, this is where I could use a little bit of my light blue on my brush, and I could put a little bit of this up and through here. Again, not too much, and I would do it more in the areas that are away from the landscape, in order to just give it that shadowy type of appearance on the darker side, but I don't necessarily want it to take away from the landscape itself. And I wouldn't make it too colorful because it's smoke, even though it can be reflective. I just wouldn't make it too colorful as like we did with back there. I just picked up a little bit of my gray. I didn't say I was going to use gray, but I just picked up a little bit of the gray because I feel as if that would be a nice softening kind of color that I could use. And again, the gray that I have is just black and white, and I did not use it in that background. So again, it's just something that helps to add that dimensional aspect. I'm thinking that I feel like I want to keep playing with it, but I don't feel as if I really need to. I'm actually going to pick up a little red. I didn't say I was going to pick up red, but I feel like I want a tiny bit of maybe the sun to just kind of pop on there just a itty bitty bit, or the the, you know, the highlights from there, just a itty bitty bit, nothing much, just, you know, to feed my painterly eye. Just a little bit more brown. There we go. There we go. Just, that's all I want. I didn't need much, just a itty bitty bit. So now I'm going to move down into the snow itself, or the ground. So I really just want to make sure that I have something on my railroad tracks, make sure that the snow where it's meeting my train works, and that my rocks are whatever way I want them to be. I'm going to tackle the railroad track first. I'm going to go with brown and white on my brush to start. So just a little brown and white. And I'm really just going to kind of scoot this across the top. Maybe it looks like snow. Maybe it just looks like a little highlight. Whatever you imagine it to be is totally fine. I'm going to put a little bit in through here. You could, of course, use a different brush if that works for you. I think that that looks pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit in these in between here, just to make it look like that snow is a little bit more piled up in between there, or even on there. That looks good. Maybe just a touch more. I feel like I want just a little tiny little highlight, like the light on my train is maybe illuminating just a little bit of that track. There we go. That looks good. And then I'm going to use the remnants on my brush, so I'm just going to wipe it off on my paper towel like this. You'll definitely want to make sure all of this is dry in through here. And this is where I'm going to have my snow just kind of being poofed up by my train. So you can, again, imagine this to be as, you know, extreme or as soft as you want it. I'm just using it a very little bit on my brush. I'm bringing this in through here. I will amp it up in a minute, but right now just kind of getting this really soft, airy appearance to happen with the remnants on my brush. I do want a little bit of the track to show, so I'm gonna pick up a touch more white and brown just on the tip of my brush. Just give myself maybe just a little hint of the track in through there. That looks good. There we go. And then I'm going to pick up just a itty bitty bit more white and my light blue, and again just wipe it off on my paper towel and just kind of amp this up as much as you want. That this is going to be your comfort zone. If you want it really heavy or really thin, I just am going to leave some of that airiness around it and then just thicken up a couple of little areas. So this way it just looks like it's kind of flying out. It could look like steam, it could look like smoke, it could look like snow. I'm thinking mine is snow being kind of pushed, you know, by the train itself. You can put even a little bit over this front corner if you wanted to. Whatever, again, whatever makes sense to you, that's where I think that you should take it. So that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to just I keep putting my head back to see if it's the way that I want. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit up here so it looks like it's, you know, exciting snow. There we go. So the rest over here, I just need to make sure it is as much as I want. So I'm going to put a little bit more white on my brush. I really feel like I want to lighten up this little area in through here. Give myself a real high contrast area to make it feel like there's some magic in this little forest, and wherever this train is going is got lots of light and life to it. Maybe just a little bit. You could also, you know, come anywhere else you feel you want to put any more additional things. My trees, I'm going to hit those in a minute on a separate step. I just want to make sure that my snow is where I want. I really like all this blue back in through here, so I'm just going to kind of amp up the area right over here with a little bit more white. Make sure that this that there's no gap between my little hill and my train, and it looks like the hill is on our side of the train and not not anything else. And I can just kind of take this, maybe a little bit of my brown, just a teeny tiny touch because it's turning almost too white on me. So just a little bit of my brown, like this. I will get it to go a little bit more white in a minute, but I just want this kind of more warm undertone to it. I'll get my rocks to go in a minute too. That looks pretty good. And then just a little lightness coming up here. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to finish my rocks, and then I'll put out one last little spot on this snow in through here. Let me just get this. There we go. So my rocks, I just need the backside to be dark and the top to be light from my light sources. And if I want any additional information to them, I can certainly do that. So I'm gonna put, they're already kind of there. I just need to soften them up a little bit. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of my light blue and white. So light blue and white, and just kind of give this another little layer on top of that. And they don't necessarily have to be white. I'm actually just putting what I'm gonna call, oh, I'm picking up dark blue too. Not sure if I said dark blue, but maybe this is just the snow just laying on top of them. Something like this. These ones might be back a little bit farther. That looks pretty good. Picking up white and light blue. Just give myself a little additional lightness to the top edge of some of these. And again, yours don't have to be like mine. Yours can be whatever way you want. So I started with a little bit darker version, and now I'm just kind of working my way towards a little bit lighter. So it appears as if they're catching a little bit of that light. And if you felt like you wanted any little areas to look like they had snow mounds, but maybe not a rock, you can always just add a little additional darkness and then a little lightness. So if the dark is going to be the shadow that dips in, and the light is going to be a lighter area, would be the area that just pops out a little bit more. So you can have those little undulations in the snow without actually having a rock per se. In through here, I feel like I need to just kind of give myself a little more fluffiness in through here. And then I'm going to just pick up a little bit more white in order to get this area in through here to have white on my dirty brush in through there. And then play with it as much as you want. You might find that you want to add more fluffiness. You might find that you want to add more depth in your snow, or more, poofiness coming out of here, whatever works for you. And then once you've got it in an acceptable place for yourself, we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are going to finish these foreground trees. I'm using my small bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are dark blue, light blue, white, and brown. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So I am going to have this tree over here, it's going to have a lot of my dark snow colors, which would be the dark blue and the light blue. We're in essence just adding snow onto our trees. Our light sources are here and here, so the illuminated side of the trees are going to be kind of these two trees. They'll be a little bit lighter on the right, and these two trees will be a little bit lighter on the left. So that's where I'm headed. So I'm going to start with my darker tones and work my way to the light. I'm going to start with dark blue on my brush. I'm going to start on this tree here. So when I'm doing these adding snow to the tree, what I'm thinking really is I just need to keep a pretty similar brush stroke to what I did initially, and this snow is sitting or resting on the branches. So if I come to a spot like this where I can clearly determine that this is the top and this is the bottom, that's where I would put a little bit more of the snow. As you get into like the middle area, you can't really tell where the top and the bottom is, so you just imagine where it is. And you're just going to kind of put these marks as if they're laying on top of the branches. I am going to put, this one is going to be a little bit darker, so that's why I'm using my dark blue as my initial kind of snow color. And as I go towards the right hand side, I can start using a little bit of my light blue. This tree is in front of that tree, so there'll be a little crossover area in through here, which I don't mind. We'll take care of that. Light blue is a little bit too light, so I'm picking up more of my dark blue on my dirty brush, and that'll get that to go a little bit more believable of a way. And you don't necessarily want to eliminate all of your edges, so I am going to have to use a little bit of white in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of get that initial layer on. I'm going to do the same thing on this one back here with a little bit. I have dark blue and light blue on my brush right now, so just a little bit of both on this one and just kind of tapping it on these branches in a similar brush stroke. So, and again, as you get towards the smaller ones, you don't necessarily need as much detail to them, but on this right one over here, again, I'm going dark blue is going to be my initial color, and you want to make sure that you bring it all the way to the ground. If you've got the type of tree that I have, I'm allowing mine to sit on the ground. Maybe yours are, maybe you see the tree trunk on yours, that's totally fine, whatever works for you. I'm doing dark blue more on this right side and maybe down that base. And now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my light blue with my dirty brush and put a little bit on this left side. I'm definitely going to need to put more lightness on those trees in the left side of my canvas, but we're going to just do this for now. And again, trying to go on the top side of some of those branches. I think one of the biggest things that I see is when you're doing these kind of trees, you almost part the right from the left, where it looks like you're splitting the tree down the middle. So I think it's important to mention to also go down the middle of the tree as well. That'll help make it look a little bit more realistic. So again, right now I just have dark blue and light blue. I'm going to pick up a little bit more light blue for this left side, and then I'm going to start adding some lighter snow onto these guys. I think I want to, before I move into light snow, put a little bit more of my light blue on these guys, just so I have a nice natural kind of transition. That looks good. Maybe just a little bit on this guy. And you can see I'm very carefree when I do stuff like this, because again, I don't necessarily like to overthink things and make them more complicated than they need to be. In my head, my brain definitely works differently than some people, so you want to work with what makes sense to you. I'm not sure what that was supposed to be. I think that was a rock. I'm going to put a little bit of white paint on my brush. We're going to just do something with that. There we go. That might be where my signature goes. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush right now, because I do want to illuminate these trees on the light source side. So I'm washing and drying my brush. This is where I'm going to use white with a little bit of brown. And again, this is what I did for the rest of the snow. So I just want the snows to look the same. So white plus a little bit of brown. And this is going on the illuminated side. So just little taps with the edge of my brush. My taps are going to be smaller on the smaller tree, and then I'm going to make them more larger on the larger tree. So as I go to this tree here, I can push my brush a little bit harder, and that's going to give me a bigger looking section than that smaller tree. This is more important on this kind of final or illuminated pass to it. When you're doing that first pass, maybe it's not as important to try and get these branches to look bigger on this tree than they are on the little tree. But if you want to give it that more realistic look and give that dimensional element to it, with them being bigger and smaller than one another, then that would definitely work. I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I could definitely put a little on the tippy top because snow definitely sits on the top of trees. It's another thing I find people forget to put the snow on the top of the tree. I do sometimes too, but it's just one of those things. You get going and it's like, oh, I forgot the top of the tree. And if you felt that you needed more of a transition, now to the dark side, just pick up a little bit of that light blue and just kind of slowly dot into that that darker side of the tree, just so it's, again, not just split down the middle. You can always continue to add more down that center area so it looks nice and believable. Over here on these guys, again, just that, I need to wash my brush. I just put a bunch of blue on it, so washing and drying my brush, picking up a little bit of that white plus a touch of brown to give myself that light appearance. And again, white and brown. I'm using the brown to add a little bit more of a luminescent quality. I could use white or yellow, but I like using my burnt umber a lot of times because it just is a more neutral light color to me than just using like yellow in it. You can certainly, if you've got different shades of yellow, you can certainly find one that works for you, but I steer a lot of times towards using just a touch of brown. I'm illuminating a little bit of this left hand side because I feel like it probably be catching a touch of that light source, so just teeny bits here and there, putting it on the top, and then over here on the left side, again, my white plus a little bit of brown, and just kind of popping just little bits here and there. And again, this side can be a little bit more aggressive with your push on your brush to get it to be a little bit more larger. And then I'm going to pop just a tiny bit. So now that I've used this warmer light color, which is the brown and the white, I'm going to put bright white on the tips of just a couple of my branches, and that will bring this all together. I'm just kind of add that on there. That looks great. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, put a tiny bit of white on my brush, and this is going to pop just wherever you want that super brightness. That's where these little pops of white are gonna allow that to happen. And then once you've got this done, you can do as much of this as you want or as little as you want with this final pop of the super bright white stuff. I'm going to definitely put a couple up in this little top area, and I'm just kind of putting this on the edges so it really catches the that light source, and maybe just a couple little twinkles over here. Definitely put it where you think that you might need that contrast push, so maybe right in this light source area. This could use a couple of brighter little pops in through here. And then once you've got this done, we're going to use our small detail brush for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out a small detail brush, and this is the fun part now, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the lower left or the lower right. I'm going to be using my #1 round brush. I think I'm going to go lower left with this one with light blue paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you of course can sign yours with your first name. You can sign it with, you can use a date, you can make up a fun special symbol. Whatever you want in your paintings to be your identifying mark is totally up to you, because it is your painting and you get to sign it however you would like. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a really awesome winter scene, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.